Preparation, initial latching, final latching, tension latch number 1 rigging, compression rod and bifurcation latch system or BLS rigging, bifurcation seal check, and the thrust reverser actuation system or TRAS rigging. Thrust reverser rigging is the process of checking and adjusting, if necessary, the clearances at all points of contact between the two thrust reverser halves and the closing force of each of the latches. This is to make sure the thrust reversers operate safely and correctly. So you must rig the thrust reverser after the installation or replacement of any of the following: an engine, a thrust reverser, or a thrust reverser latch. Before we get started, note that this program is for training purposes only. It does not take the place of any information in any written documents of the Boeing Company, your company, or any government regulatory agencies. Also keep in mind that this program was recorded during the 787 Maintenance Manual or AMM validation test. There may have been changes, so as always, before beginning any maintenance task, you should see the AMM for the latest information. Warning: be sure to know and follow all safety precautions. Be sure to perform all tasks in the order shown in the Aircraft Maintenance Manual. Failure to follow all safety precautions or to perform all tasks in the correct order can result in serious damage to equipment, injury, or even death. Preparation. We will see system preparations in the flight deck, the right main landing gear compartment, the forward cargo compartment, and in the engine strut, as well as preparations of the thrust reverser cowls themselves. In the flight deck, always place Do Not Operate tags after the following operations. First, make sure the engine start switch is in the normal position. Next, make sure the fuel control switch is in the cutoff position. Then make sure the flap lever is in the up position. Now go to the right main landing gear compartment and locate the flap slat hydraulic control valve near the middle of the compartment on the keel beam. Disconnect the cannon plug at the lower left of the valve assembly. Next, go to the forward cargo compartment and locate the slat electric motor control unit behind the insulation lining at 24L on the left side of the compartment. Remove the cannon plug on its lower left. Now go to the left side of the engine strut and deactivate the thrust reverser hydraulic system by installing 2 safety pins in the hydraulic control unit. Return to the flight deck and make sure that the left and right electric motor pump hydraulic switches are turned to the off position and tagged with a Do Not Operate tag. Now do the maintenance task for opening the thrust reverser cowls. Caution: make sure to open the fan cowls before opening the thrust reverser cowls. If you do not open the fan cowls before opening the thrust reverser cowls, you could cause damage to the cowls. Warning: make sure to install the thrust reverser hold open rods and that the yellow indicator band shows, meaning that the rods are locked. Failure to install the hold open rods could allow the thrust reversers to close unexpectedly, causing serious damage, injury, or even death. With the cowls open, you can remove the 2 compression rods located above the engine core. This is so they will not interfere when you close the cowl to check clearances and latch tensions. We will see checking and adjusting the compression rod clearances later in this program. The BLS rods are not removable, so adjust them all the way in by turning them clockwise until they stop. Starting at latch number 1 and moving aft, remove the striker plates and shims from both the left and right cowls. Note that latches number 2 and 3 look the same, so we will only see removing the strikers and shims from number 3. It's a good idea to tape the screws, strikers, and shims together and mark them with the location they came from. This will make it easier to know where to reinstall them later. Remove the strikers and shims from tension latch number 4. Next, remove the strikers and shims from the translating cowl latch area. Then remove the strikers and shims from around the core cowl latch area. Now remove the pads and shims from the bumpers. Note that, unlike the tension latch strikers, you replace the bumper pads before you measure the clearances. This process may have changed, so make sure you check the AMM for up-to-date information. After you have removed the strikers and shims from both halves, remove the translating sleeve panel from the left cowl. Then loosen the translating latch shear pins. Now, using a clean, dry cloth, clean the left and right outer V grooves. Then apply a thin coat of silicone release spray to the surfaces of the two outer V grooves that will touch the outer V blade. With the preparations complete, you are now ready to do the initial latching at the C duct level. In this step, you will check the closing force of the V-band latch, the gap between the forward fixed panels, the closing force of tension latch number 4, and the gap between the rear fixed panels. After reinstalling the shim packs and strikers for latches number 1 and 4, you will check the clearance of the V-blade, the clearances at latches number 2 and 3, and the clearances at all bumpers. Remember, in all cases, you will make adjustments if necessary by adding or removing shims, adjusting latch tensions, or both. Begin by cleaning the shim pads for tension latch number 1. Then apply clay or repro rubber to the shim pads. See the AMM for more information on this. Apply a thin layer of grease or release agent to the clay and to the matching surfaces on the opposite half where the clay will make contact. This is so the clay will not stick to the matching surface when you reopen the cowls later. Close the thrust reverser halves. Note that although we are using the PDOS system to open and close the thrust reverser cowls, there are other acceptable methods. See the AMM for more information. Now use a spring scale to measure the force needed to close the V-blade latch. Adjust the latch tension per the maintenance manual if necessary. Then measure the gap between the two forward fixed panels. If the gap is not within limits, you must readjust the V-blade latch tension. Loosen the tension to increase the gap, and tighten the tension to reduce the gap. You must repeat this process of adjusting the tension and checking the gap until both are within limits. After the V-blade latch is properly adjusted, leave it latched and go to the number 4 latch. Make sure its closing force is within limits. Adjust the latch tension if the closing force is not within limits. Then check the gap between the aft fixed panels. Adjust the number 4 latch tension if necessary and recheck the gap. Repeat this process until both the number 4 latch tension and the gap between the aft fixed panels are within limits. Now release the latches and reopen the thrust reverser cowls. Again, always make sure to attach the hold open rods and that they are fully extended and locked whenever the cowls are open. Remove the pieces of clay. Note, sometimes the clay will stick to the opposite side from where it was installed. Measure the thickness of the clay using calipers to determine the size and number of shims you will need. And add or remove shims from each stack if necessary. Make sure to take into account the thickness of the striker plates. Then reinstall the shims and strikers to the tension latch number 1 shim pads. Make sure to torque the screws as specified in the AMM. Next, install the shims and strikers for tension latch number 4. To determine the thickness of the shims for latch number 4, take the average of the thicknesses used for latch number 1. You do not take separate readings for latch number 4. For example, if the clearances at latch number 1 are 44 hundredths for the upper pad and 46 hundredths for the lower, then you would add 44 hundredths and 46 hundredths for a total of 90. Then divide by 2 to get the average, in this case 45 hundredths. So the shims together with the strikers for latch number 4 would be 45 hundredths. With the clearances at tension latches 1 and 4 correct, you are now ready to check the clearances of the V-blade. Place clay or repro rubber at 7 equally spaced locations along the inner V-blade of the 2 thrust reverser halves. We won't see it here, but make sure to apply a thin coat of grease to the outer surfaces of the clay or rubber and to the surface of the inner V-groove where it will come in contact with the clay or rubber. Note that repro rubber can set up very quickly in warm weather, so you may need to act quickly. Now close the thrust reverser halves and fully close and latch the V-blade latch, and latch number 4. Do not close or latch any other latches at this time. Make sure that the striker plates for latch number 1 and latch number 4 contact each other. If you are using repro rubber, wait the specified time for it to set up, then open the latches and cowls. Make sure you keep track of the location for each piece of clay or repro as you remove it. If you are using repro, you can mark the rubber itself with a felt tip pen. Then measure each piece and make note of your readings. If any of the V-blade clearances are not within the limits in the AMM, you will need to add or remove shims from tension latch number 1 and tension latch number 4 accordingly. Then recheck and adjust, if necessary, the latch tensions, following the procedure we just saw. Then recheck the V-blade clearances. Note, you must repeat the process of adjusting the shims at latches 1 and 4 and checking latch tensions and the V-blade clearances until the tensions and clearances are within limits. When the V-blade clearances are correct, clean the V-blade and V-groove of any remaining clay, repro, or release agent residue. Now apply clay to the shim pads and mating surfaces for tension latches 2 and 3, the core cowl latch, and the translating sleeve latch. Don't forget to spray all of the clay and mating surfaces with the silicone grease release agent. Then apply clay to the bumpers. Then close the cowls. And close and latch the V-blade latch and tension latch number 4. Do not close any of the other latches at this time. If you are using repro, wait a sufficient amount of time for it to set up. Then open the latches and cowls. Now carefully remove the pieces of clay from the cowls. Make sure you do not change the shape of the clay as you remove it. Measure the clay and make a record of the clearance at each location. Note that you may use this method to measure the clay if it is easier. Then make sure that each shim pack is the correct thickness. Now reinstall the shims. Make sure to clean the surfaces of any clay or repro residue first. The initial latching at the sea duct level is now complete, and you are ready to begin the final latching. In this step, you will check and adjust, if necessary, all of the thrust reverser latches except tension latch number 1. Begin by closing the cowls. Then close the following latches in the following order: the V-blade latch, tension latch number 2, tension latch number 3, tension latch number 4, the core cowl latch, and the translating sleeve latch. Caution: during the final latching, only operate the latches specified. This is necessary for proper adjustment of the thrust reverser. Damage to the thrust reverser can occur if you do not adjust it correctly. Note that the process for final adjustment of the latches is essentially the same for all of the latches. Fully open the latch, then fully close and open the latch 3 times to fully seat the thrust reverser cowls. Check the closing force of the latch with a spring scale. If the closing force is not within specifications, adjust by opening the latch and turning the star wheel adjuster in the desired direction. Repeat the closing force check and adjusting steps until the closing force is within specifications. Record the final closing force. Finally, leave the latch closed and move on to the next latch. Begin by opening the V-blade latch fully, and then close it and open it 3 times to fully seat the V-blade in the grooves. Then open the latch. Check the closing force. Adjust the latch tension if necessary to make sure the closing force is within the limits specified in the maintenance manual. Note that the V-blade latch mechanism is on the right thrust reverser cowl next to the tension latch number 1 mechanism. Also note you may need to have someone lift the tension latch number 1 lever to get access to the V-blade latch star wheel adjuster. With the final adjustment of the V-blade latch complete, you are now ready to check and adjust if necessary tension latches number 2, 3, and 4. Caution! Make sure the V-blade latch is closed and latched before attempting to adjust tension latch number 2. Also, remember that latch number 2 and latch number 3 are identical, so we will only see adjusting latch number 2 in this video. Open the latch to the fully open position, then fully close and open the latch 3 times to fully seat it. Check its closing force and adjust if necessary. Note that you adjust the latches by inserting an Allen wrench into the star wheel adjuster and turning in the desired direction. You turn toward the plus sign to increase the gap or reduce the tension, and you turn toward the minus sign to reduce the gap or increase the tension. Now check latch number 4 and adjust if necessary. Note that the adjuster for latch number 4 has a locking tab that you must retract before turning the adjuster. Next, check the closing force for the core cowl latch and adjust if necessary. Finally, check the translating sleeve latch. Adjust if necessary. Note that for the translating sleeve latch, you do not need to close and open it 3 times before checking the closing force. With the final latching at the C-duct level complete, we are now ready to look at the rigging of tension latch number 1. In this step, you will check and adjust if necessary tension latch number 1. Note that tension latch number 1 is located at the forward edge of the thrust reverser cowls, and that tension latch number 1 is the only latch with the latch mechanism on the right cowl. Check the closing force. If it is necessary to adjust tension latch number 1, you will need to open the right thrust reverser cowl to get access to the adjuster. Insert an Allen wrench into one of the holes in the latch star wheel and turn the star wheel in the desired direction. Then close the cowl and recheck the closing force. Repeat this process until the closing force is within the limits in the maintenance manual. When the tension latch number 1 closing force is within limits, recheck the V-blade latch closing force. Remember, if tension latch number 1 is not within limits, you must continue checking and adjusting tension latch number 1 and the V-blade latch until both are within limits, with no further adjustments necessary. With tension latch number 1 rigging complete, the next step is compression rod and bifurcation latch system rigging. In this step, you will check and adjust if necessary the clearances at the compression rods and the BLS rods. After making sure all latches are not latched, open the right thrust reverser. Apply clay or repro rubber to the bevel surface on the right end of each compression rod. Then put the compression rods in their positions on the pylon hanger assemblies. Make sure the rods are fully seated in the compression cups on the left thrust reverser half. Now apply clay or repro to the upper and lower BLS rods. After spraying all the clay or repro that you just applied and their mating surfaces with silicone release agent, close the thrust reverser halves, then close and latch only those latches shown in the AMM for this step. Make sure to close them in the order shown. If you used repro, remember to wait long enough for it to set up. Then open the cowls and remove the repro or clay from the BLS rods. For the compression rods, you may want to remove the entire rod in case you need to adjust the rod. Take the measurement where the beveled surface touched the compression cups. If you need to adjust a compression rod, remove the safety wire and loosen the jam nut. Then turn the rod end to extend or retract the compression rod as needed. You adjust the BLS rods by turning the star wheel adjuster. You may be able to turn the adjuster by hand. If not, use an Allen wrench in the holes in the star wheel. Note, the AMM has more information about how far to turn the compression rod ends and the BLS rod star wheel adjusters. With the compression rod and BLS rigging complete, we are now ready to look at the bifurcation seal check. In this step, you will check the clearances of the bifurcation seal. With the thrust reverser cowls open, clean along the fire seal and all of the surfaces the fire seal touches. Note, these surfaces are also called landing surfaces. Now apply developer along the landing surfaces. Make sure you apply developer to the landing surfaces only. There is a complete list of the surfaces in the AMM. When dry, the developer becomes a dull white powder. Then, after making sure the seals are fully touching per the maintenance manual, open the cowls. Measure the width of the area where the developer has been removed from the landing surfaces to determine the amount of contact with the seals. Compare the measurement with the limits in the maintenance manual and replace any seals that do not make sufficient contact. Before continuing, make sure to clean the seals and landings to remove any developer residue. With the bifurcation seal check done, we can do the rigging of the thrust reverser actuation system, or TRAS. In this step, you will deactivate the deploy circuit to prevent the actuators from receiving deploy pressure, disconnect the crossover flex shaft to allow the sleeves to move independently of each other, apply stow pressure to make sure the sleeves are fully forward, reconnect the crossover flex shaft, tighten the shear pins to help keep the sleeves aligned fore and aft, then remove stow pressure and return the thrust reverser system to normal. Close the thrust reverser halves, then close and latch only those latches shown in the AMM for this step. Make sure to close them in the order shown. Disconnect the electrical connector from the directional control valve receptacle on the hydraulic control unit. Make sure to put protective caps on the connector and the receptacle. The 4 thrust reverser hydraulic actuators are on the forward face of the thrust reverser halves. Check all 4 actuators to make sure they are fully stowed and locked. Do this by making sure the lock pin hole on the lock release of each actuator will not align with the 2 lock pin holes on the actuator. Then disconnect the hose guide and the left deploy hose and crossover flex shaft from the upper left hydraulic actuator. Note: make sure that all stow tubes and hoses are fully tight before you apply hydraulic pressure to the thrust reverser. On the flight deck selectable menu keys, select Maintenance, then select Maintenance Control Pages, then Miscellaneous System Controls, then select the test position for the EEC for the engine you are working on. Back at the engine, make sure you have a 1-gallon hydraulic fluid resistant container to catch any fluid that comes out of the left deploy hose when you apply stow pressure. Then remove the lock pins from the hydraulic control unit. Now back in the flight deck, send the deploy command to the thrust reverser system by pulling the thrust levers all the way to the idle position and pulling the reverse thrust levers all the way back to the deploy position. Make sure the ground test switch on the P5 overhead panel is set to the enable position, and turn on the electric motor pump for the engine you are working on. Then have someone at the engine press and hold the TES or test enable switch, while at the same time someone in the flight deck moves the thrust reverse lever fully forward and down. Caution: do not release stow pressure until you fully connect the flexible shaft and deploy tube or hose. The pressure keeps the translating sleeves in the correct position to install the flexible shaft and deploy tube or hose. If the translating sleeves are in the incorrect position, damage will occur when they operate. Now reinstall the left deploy hose and the crossover flex shaft on the upper left hydraulic actuator according to the instructions in the AMM. Then go to the translating sleeve and tighten the shear pin nuts. You can now remove stow pressure from the hydraulic system as follows. Make sure the thrust reverse levers are fully forward and down. At the engine, release the TES switch. In the flight deck, set the EEC test switch to the normal position and turn the hydraulic pump off. Reinstall the safety pins in the hydraulic control unit. Fully tighten the B-nut on the left deploy hose at the upper left hydraulic actuator. Then reinstall the hose guide and reconnect the electrical connector on the hydraulic control unit. Finally, if there are no other maintenance tasks to perform, return the airplane to normal condition per the AMM. This completes TRAS rigging. This also completes our video on 787 Rolls-Royce thrust reverser rigging. We have seen preparation, initial latching at the C duct level, final latching at the C duct level, Attention latch number 1 rigging, compression rod and bifurcation latch system or BLS rigging, the bifurcation seal check, and thrust reverser actuation system or TRAS rigging. Warning: make sure to know and follow all safety precautions. In particular, always perform the tasks in the correct order. Failure to perform the tasks in the correct order can result in improper rigging. An improperly rigged thrust reverser can cause serious damage. When the thrust reversers are open, always make sure the safety rods are correctly installed and that the yellow bands are fully visible to show that the safety rods are locked. If you do not correctly install and lock the safety rods, the thrust reversers can close unexpectedly and cause damage to equipment, serious injury to persons, or even death. Do not get hydraulic fluid on your skin, in your mouth, or in your eyes. Hydraulic fluid is poisonous and can go through your skin and into your body. Flush hydraulic fluid from your eyes, mouth, or skin with water. Get medical aid if you get hydraulic fluid in your eyes or mouth. Finally, keep in mind that this video was produced during the validation check of the Aircraft Maintenance Manual procedure. It does not necessarily show every step completely. Also, there may have been changes in the procedure since this video was made. As always, be sure to see the Aircraft Maintenance Manual for the latest information before beginning this or